Alright, so today we're going to talk about the most useful accessory for this Honda 2000i. Before we get to that, just want to briefly explain a couple things here. So the Honda 2000i, that model has been around for a long time and basically unchanged for years. Besides the fuel cap on the older units was a little bit smaller. Otherwise, it basically stayed unchanged. When I bought this one, it must have been right at the end of production for the 2000i, because it was shortly after they came out with the EU2000i, which is 2,200 watts instead of 2,000 watts. And I was a little disappointed that I missed out on the 2200 series because of that extra wattage that was available, and basically the same price. There were some issues though. 22i's had a recall for, I think it was like a fuel line or something to do with the fuel that could possibly leak or something. So almost all of them, I want to say, were recalled. I know we had quite a few at work. The ones that we did have at work, they all went into the dealer for the recall or whatever. There was one change on the 22i. They actually changed the engine switch here too, and maybe that's why they had some issues with the fuel business. But on here, there's actually a three-way switch instead of a two, so this is off. It shuts the engine off, and then you got on. And on the 22, there's actually a spot in between here where it says fuel off, so it cuts the fuel, and the engine continues to run until it runs the fuel out, and then you can turn it all the way off. So that's basically the two differences between the 2000i and the 22i. So like I said, that 2200 came out shortly after I had bought mine, and basically the two changes was the fuel switch and the more watts, and then there's that recall issue. The front panel on the 2200i was basically the same. The slight differences is when you look at the outlets here, instead of it saying 13.3 amp, it's actually 15 amp. And down here where it says DC 12 volt, instead of 8 amp, it's going to say 8.3 amps. And that's, I'm assuming, because it's 2200 watts instead of 2000 watts. Otherwise, the rest of it is basically the panel is all the same. They both have the parallel operation outlets. Okay, so when I was at Northern Tool the other day, I saw a 2200i that had a Bluetooth sticker on it, and I think now this is the newest model of the 22, which I was less than impressed with. So the front panel has changed some. So instead of the exposed outlets, there's now like a rubber cover that goes over that's supposed to be kind of like a weather deal. There's also up in this corner here a carbon monoxide detector that if it senses that, I guess it shuts the unit down, and I believe that has to be serviced with part of the maintenance, otherwise the unit won't run. And it does away with the DC 12 volt completely. It doesn't have that option. It still has companion parallel operation. It still has the three lights, your grounding screw, and your eco throttle. But Bluetooth is great for a lot of things, but we get carried away with that. I think this generator here and probably the 22 that doesn't have Bluetooth are probably some of the best small suitcase generators out there. I'm not so sold on the idea of a Bluetooth and the idea of that carbon monoxide detector being able to shut the machine off. I see a ton of issues with that. So if you could find one of these, I like this now. I don't feel so bad that I missed out on the 22, because it seems like Honda's going in the wrong direction with that. Alright, so this is by far the best accessory for this machine. And like I said, that new one with the Bluetooth kind of bothers me because it's obsolete. It doesn't have that 12 volt capability. So here it says EU2000i and 2000i, but obviously the 22 that came after my machine before the Bluetooth one has the 12 volt hookup, which is nice. Part numbers listed. It's 10 foot. These are the cables here. So you get your alligator clips on one end here, and it's marked with 20 amp plus minus, 10 feet of cord, and then the connector that goes into the front of the generator. This cable tie here is reusable, so if you press this tab down, you can actually loosen this so that you can reuse it to keep it neatly corded together there. So we'll take a look at how this plugs in. Alright, so front of the machine here, you can't put this in the wrong way, just the way they got it designed. You can try, I guess. So it plugs in like that. If it does end up pulling more than 8 amps, so if you're charging a battery on this and you're pulling more than 8 amps, or maybe you're trying to run something 12 volt with this, there is a reset on the front here if that's popped out, and that's where it talks about there's a circuit protector. And then alongside here too it says plus and minus. So if you don't have the cord and you were pretty slick with stuff, you could probably make up your own cord. Just looking at this, you can probably figure out how to do that with some electrical connectors, but I like having this cable. Didn't take any time. So it's plugged in like this. But my thought is, if I'm going out to the woods and it's really cold and I'm using this to heat up the engine block with the engine block heater, and for some reason the battery is low, or maybe the battery is getting weak, I can throw these cables on here and also charge it as I'm warming it up. Obviously you don't want to charge up a frozen battery, but if it's weak, you could probably get enough of a charge in the thing that you could get the thing to start. So that's nice. It's got that 8 amp battery charging. It says battery charging only option. One thing to note, there is no limit on that, so it's just going to keep putting 8 amps. So after your battery takes 100% charge, it'll just keep putting 8 amps and it'll cook your battery. So you got to kind of be on the ball with that type of thing. So we'll start it up here and I'll just show you how it works. Okay, so obviously I don't have a battery to charge and you wouldn't actually see it do anything, but I do have a 12 volt light bulb here, and we'll start it up and I'll show you that it gives you 12 volts. So there you go. That's your 12 volts. And I'm not sure if you're supposed to run it on the Eco or if you're supposed to run it on full throttle. So it looks like the bulb gets just a little dimmer when you put it on the Eco mode, but I can't see why you couldn't use that for some 12 volt lighting even at the campsite. As long as you don't go over that 8 amp draw, I don't see what the difference would be actually. So it's pretty convenient. If you need power somewhere where, like I said, you're running an engine block heater, maybe an oil pan heater, and then you want to put some charge into a battery, maybe a vehicle that's been sitting a while, like this is the perfect little unit to have. Like, it's very convenient, it's not heavy, and it's a Honda, so you know it's dependable. So, alright, that's going to be it for now.